In light of the events of August 2021 in Afghanistan, I want to discuss making a proper exit strategy for a military operation, as well as for your personal life. Imagine a young Special Forces captain sneaking outside of the wire when he can to deliver food, supplies, and money to a local girls' orphanage. The leader of the orphanage is a courageous Muslim woman born in Afghanistan, educated in the United Kingdom, who returned to Afghanistan to start an orphanage where she rescues and educates young girls. It's the kind of success story that Western civilizations revel in. The orphanage saves hundreds of girls' lives in the course of 15 years. But within a few weeks of the U.S. announcing that it will pull out of Afghanistan, her orphanage is raided by Taliban supporters. Sadly, but thankfully, she is killed instantly and doesn't have to endure being stoned alive or tortured to death. I generally don't like to tell sad stories or to be too political, but I do like to be honest. As a retired American soldier who served 3 tours for a total of 18 months in Afghanistan, I know that our country has some great military doctrine about mission planning and mission ending. But in my lifetime, we have yet to do it well. Regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're from, I think we can all agree that if we would have had a better exit strategy, we wouldn't see the terrible situation now unfolding in a country where we have spent trillions and lost thousands. And so let's talk about end state and exit strategies, what they are, recent history, working yourself out of a job, and how we can apply an exit strategy to civilian life. Just as you have a strategy for fighting and winning a war, you also make an exit strategy. A military exit strategy is your plan on how you are going to finish an undertaking, a mission, a situation. The simplest way to express an exit strategy is seen in the commander's intent, where he writes task, purpose, and end state. Army Doctrine Publication 5.0, The Operations Process, states that the end state is a set of desired future conditions the commander wants to exist when an operation ends. Commanders describe the operation's end state by stating the desired conditions of the friendly force in relationship to desired conditions of the enemy, terrain, and civilian considerations. We can see highlighted in red that our own doctrine says that a proper end state should address future conditions and the desired conditions of friendly forces, enemy forces, terrain, and civil considerations. So let's oversimplify and say that the U.S. military's involvement in Afghanistan has the end state of turning over control of Afghanistan back to the Afghans, where they are able to secure and govern their own country. Friendlies are back in the United States, prepared to fight other enemies of our nation. The Taliban is no longer a viable threat. The geographical space of Afghanistan is secured and ruled by a legitimate government of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, or JIROA, and the citizens are able to enjoy basic human and civil rights. And so let's take a look at what our leaders decided to do. Is the JIROA able to secure and govern their own country? Sadly, no. Friendlies are out of harm's way, for now. Is the Taliban still a viable threat? Yes, they are. Is the geographical space of Afghanistan secured and ruled by a legitimate government of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan? No. And do the citizens enjoy basic human and civil rights? Well, not since the US and NATO announced that they're pulling out. That's 1 out of 5, 20%. And this end state doesn't even address the fact that the Taliban is funded hugely by selling opium worldwide. The best exit strategy in recent times was written after World War II. It was called the Marshall Plan, named after George Catlett Marshall, a humble but brilliant VMI graduate who insisted that the collective we rebuild Europe, despite the devastation that they got and absolutely deserved because they allowed an evil regime under Hitler to flourish. American and international neglect after World War I allowed for the rise of Hitler to power. Marshall wasn't going to repeat that mistake again, and so he and our alliance leaders helped rebuild Europe, and thankfully today Europe is flourishing. Our next major military engagement was Korea. Our exit strategy in Korea was neutral at best, but I say lacking. And while we still have a truce on the 38th parallel, we have also empowered a dictatorship that is still a viable global threat. I spent the first year of my military career serving in Korea, an ever-constant reminder that we didn't properly finish what we started. Everyone knows our less than optimal pullout of Vietnam. But in recent history, it was sad to see that soon after President Obama directed a pullout from Iraq, ISIS quickly defeated the Iraqi military and was driving the Humvees and M1A1 tanks the coalition left for the Iraqi government. Weapons left behind for the Iraqi military have been used against coalition forces and innocent civilians during terrorist attacks all over the world. But evidently, we didn't learn any lessons from World War I, Korea, Vietnam, or Iraq. Surely our leaders and generals know better. And so we have chaos in Afghanistan. No exit strategy. Let's just quit and leave as soon as possible. Who cares about a proper exit strategy? Sadly, there aren't any more George Marshalls left in the military. Just yes men and sellouts who want to get promoted or go with the political flow. Had we actually planned the exit, we could have staged a deception and then re-attacked the Taliban once they presented themselves in such great numbers. Had we actually planned the exit, we would have ensured that the conditions were set for properly pulling out. And now, rather than fighting Islamic radicals from all over the world in the known battleground of Afghanistan, the foreign fighters who want to hurt America will simply come to America to fight. It can't be that America wins every battle but loses every war. The Special Forces have a saying, "It's work yourself out of a job." I think it applies to military missions as well as civilian work. When we were training partnered forces to fight the war on drugs, we wanted to ensure that they could plan and operate without our support or supervision. We worked ourselves out of a job. The best thing we can do is to learn from our mistakes. When you are planning something important, make sure you have a good exit strategy. If you're making your retirement, then your end state might be to have enough money to maintain your standard of living while being able to pay for your forecasted healthcare requirements. If you start a new business and work 80 hours a week for the first year, then you ought to make an exit strategy and work yourself out of a job. The second year, you need to develop your subordinates to take some of your workload so you only have to work 40 hours a week. In the third year, you should delegate most of your work so that you can focus on the next phase of growth for your business. That way you're making money through your business, but you're working a few minutes or hours a week. Okay, there you have it. A quick lesson about making an exit strategy. Defining your end state is a doctrinal requirement within the military planning process. And while we don't do it all that well as a nation, I still recommend that you adopt this best planning practice for your life and business. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you want to keep learning and to forward this video to a friend who needs to see this. Life is a special operation. Are you ready for it?